We're back with another episode of Mac Stories Unwind. Today's show is brought to you by Collide. I'm John Voorhees, and with me is Federico Viticci. Hey, Federico.
Hello, John. How are you?
I'm doing all right. You know, you and I have been staying up late and experimenting with video games. That's a shocker, I guess. I don't know.
And so we had an idea for a uniquely unwind episode that sort of combines entertainment and media, because we're going to talk about video games, but also behind the scenes because it covers what we've been doing, and we just talked about holiday projects on App Stories. And so This is sort of there's also some follow-up from me regarding what one of the projects that I had on App Stories. So today we are just going to talk about local game streaming and how we've been streaming video games from the PlayStation 5 and in my case, my gaming PC, inside the house from a different room.
Yeah, it's got a good tech angle too. So I think that this kind of hits a lot of sweet spots for Mac Stories Unwind. And I've been doing the same thing, not with a PC, but with my PS5 and a couple of different devices, which we'll get into.
Yeah, which, by the way, John, my PS5 Slim is in Viterbo, but I haven't. I didn't go to Viterbo this week.
Right.
And so my mom is holding it for me, and I'll probably get it on Monday, and I'll set it up and sell my PlayStation 5 and just use the same. Yeah.
You're not gonna make your mom do a special delivery to Rome. You're not gonna put her ask her to get in the car and drive down to Rome.
It crossed my mind, to be honest with you. It crossed my mind. I was like, no, I cannot ask her.
You're a good son. You're a good son.
Thank you. So let me start with my piece of follow-up, because it's sort of everything sort of cascades from there. On App Stories, I told you that I wanted to optimize my Wi-Fi situation at home. And more specifically, I was getting very low reception in the bedroom. Mm-hmm. And so we have an Eero Pro 6 setup. We have the core unit that is plugged into the modem from my ISP. We have gigabit fiber at home, and the sort of central unit of the Eero is in the living room, inside a sort of cabinet that is underneath the TV. So it's in a closed space. There's ventilation in it. There's I asked the guys who came over to sort of assemble the furniture to drill a couple holes for me for ventilation. And there's also a fan that I put in inside. So it's ventilated, but it's inside a piece of furniture. Then I have I have an Ethernet cable that I ran inside my walls, and it comes out from under my desk. So my desk is wired directly to the router. Mm-hmm. And that cable goes into a second Eero Pro 6. So it gets the signal from the living room via Ethernet. And the other port goes into my CalDigit TS4 dock. So my computer or my iPad is also on wired Ethernet. And then lastly, I had, until a few days ago, a third Eero outside. In a closet that we have outside. We have this very large balcony, and I wanted to make sure that I would get Wi-Fi out there. And so there's an Eero outside. And now, of course, keep in mind that in Italy, the kind of apartments that we live in, these are made, these are brick walls, right?
Right.
There's no, what would you call it when it's not bricks? It's like...
drywall and wood.
Drywall. It's not drywall. It's not wood. It's brick walls.
And that's because of earthquakes is the main reason.
It's the regulation that we have in Italy to build this like anti-seismic sort of procedures for especially new buildings. So there's brick walls, which means, reception may get lower than usual because there's a literal brick blocking the signal.
Right.
And I told you, look, in the bedroom, even though it's like only 10, 15 meters away from the living room, it gets real bad.
Just because it's like two walls, I think is what you told me.
There's two walls. There's two walls blocking the living room and, the signal from the living room to the bedroom. Mm-hmm. And you told me, look, you got to put an Eero in the bedroom. And I resisted the idea.
Well, because I think you have a social problem there potentially with Sylvia, right?
Because potentially I thought I was going to have a social problem. But I realized, I am only going to keep thinking about this unless I actually try it.
Sure.
So with Black Friday, I took advantage of a discount and I got a fourth Eero Pro 6 from Amazon.
Oh, I thought you were going to tell me that you moved the one from the balcony, and I was going to ask you what you were going to do next summer, but
Nope.
you've already got that solved. Okay, good.
Got a new one. And initially, I placed it behind the TV. And that was better because I went from like 30 to 40 megabits down to 150, which was all right. But I thought, I actually want to try something else. Because I had a feeling, I was doing some reading online, and I had a feeling that this 55-inch TV that we had in the bedroom would also cause some interference with the Wi-Fi signal, with the Eero
Right.
behind this piece of metal, essentially this aluminum frame. I thought it was going to cause some issues. So I took the Eero and I placed it on my nightstand. I did some I redid my cable management. And by the way, I also, we're going to talk about this on another time on App Stories. I upgraded from the Anker MagSafe charger to the new Belkin MagSafe thing that they have, also called the Boost Charge Pro, because they always call those things Boost Charge.
Everything.
So anyway, yeah, I redid my cable management and I placed the Eero on my nightstand. And let me tell you, John, this is the best thing I've ever done. I now have, with Wi-Fi, 450 megabits down.
Oh, nice.
And 200 megabits up. Now, for context, when I'm in the living room, right in front of the Eero, I get like 600 down and 300 up.
Yeah.
Getting 450 down and 200 up is pretty good, I would say.
Oh yeah, it is. Definitely. That's really good. I'm impressed. That's well done. I mean,
but there's two more things. There's two more things.
You have magnets and radios right by your head as you sleep at night. I think that this would give our friend Mike Hurley heart attacks.
Well, YOLO, I guess.
I guess so.
But there's two more things I got to tell you. First one is, and we'll get to this in a few minutes, I have an Eero right next to me.
Right.
And it's a pretty short distance for an Ethernet cable.
Oh, yeah.
And we'll get to this in a minute. But the second one. So the Eero on my nightstand has an LED indicator that pulses or stay solid white when it's on, and it works. It means it's working. And I realized, if Sylvia sees this LED, she's going to lose her mind. And she's going to ask me to remove it because I know she's going to be bothered by this LED. So I had an idea. And I thought, what can I do to cover this LED indicator? Initially, I thought I'm just going to get a piece of white tape and put it on the LED. But then I got creative, John. So, those... What would you call it? Those things that you put under a chair so that it doesn't make a noise when you move a chair.
They're like little felt pads.
Yeah, felt pads. Thank you. So I had a set of felt pads that we used in the living room for our chairs and the sofa. I got a white felt pad and I placed it on top of the LED indicator, and that blocked the light, and that was good enough. But then I thought, this is like this Eero. It's like a new surface that I can use for something. Maybe I can put stuff on top of it. And I was looking at that circular felt pad that I put on the LED indicator, and I had an idea. I got from Amazon for like €5 a third-party Apple Watch charging puck. Just the puck. All right? So imagine an Apple Watch charger, just the round thing. Right. Just one of those. They sell those from like third-party manufacturers. It's got a USB-C port, and the idea is it's a portable Apple Watch puck. You can just run a USB-C cable and charge your watch.
Okay.
I put some adhesive tape on the bottom of it.
Yeah.
I placed it on top of the felt pad, covering the LED indicator. And now, and it doesn't have a USB-C cable plugged in. I just wanted to have a magnetic base, right?
Yeah.
To place my AirPods.
Oh, interesting. I like
Yeah.
that. Oh, I didn't know where that was going at all. I thought I was going to ask, why are you charging your watch on top of an Eero when you just bought the Belkin thing?
I just wanted to have a magnetic attachment
Sure.
because I realized something I do every night is I reach for my nightstand with my left hand and I'm like, where are my AirPods?
Yeah, and you knock them on the floor or something sometimes.
Exactly.
I've done the same thing.
And I was like, I could probably take advantage of this cover that I've done for the LED light. And so, I'm going to send you pictures to visualize what it looks like.
Yeah.
But yeah, now I have a pretty convenient spot for my AirPods Pro. So,
that's very good. Let me ask you one question before you move on, which is that Eero that's sitting next to you on your nightstand, is it wired with Ethernet in, or is it just okay?
No,
that's what I thought.
It's on Wi-Fi.
Okay.
I don't have Ethernet in the walls that go to the bedroom.
Into the bedroom, right? Okay.
Yeah, I could do it at some point.
Yeah, I've started having similar thoughts after our experiments this week with our living room and my bedroom.
But I gotta muster up the courage to tell Silvia, hey, we gotta call the guy again. But no, I'm not gonna do it now or anytime soon.
Yeah, I mean the problem with all that, and this is like the big hurdle you have to get over with when it comes to things like wired Ethernet, is that you got to open up your walls, and then when you open up your walls, you have to patch your walls, and then you have to paint your walls. And all of that costs a lot of money, and not only that, it's inconvenient and a disruption, and you got to move furniture and all that stuff. It's a big project. So if you can find another way to do it, it's good.
And I did, and we'll talk more about Ethernet in a few minutes. But first, so that's my Wi-Fi follow-up.
This episode of Mac Stories Unwind is brought to you by Kolide. If you're in security or IT and your company has Okta, this message is for you. Have you ever noticed that over the past few years, the majority of data breaches and hacks you read about have one thing in common? It's the employees, because hackers absolutely love exploiting vulnerable employee devices and credentials. But it doesn't have to be that way. Imagine a world where only secure devices can access your cloud apps. In this world, phished credentials are useless to hackers, and you can manage every OS, even Linux, from a single dashboard. Best of all, you can get employees to fix their own device security issues without creating headaches for IT. The good news is you don't have to imagine this world. You can just start using Kolide. Kolide is the device trust solution for companies with Okta, and it ensures that if a device isn't trusted and secure, it can't log into your cloud apps. Visit Kolide.com/MacStoriesUnwind to watch a demo and see how it works. That's KOLIDE.com/MacStoriesUnwind. Our thanks to Kolide for their support of the show.
So we've been using the PlayStation Portal for PlayStation Remote Play, Chiaki, which is a third-party remote play client for a bunch of platforms, including the Steam Deck. And I've also been using Moonlight for PC game streaming. And I'm going to talk about Moonlight later. So we both have... I'm going to cut right to the chase, John. We both have a PlayStation Portal. And as of yesterday, I sold mine.
Did you? You know what? I think I'm going to give mine to one of my kids for Christmas.
Good idea. So what's your take on it?
So, I like the hardware in that I like the DualSense controller. It's a full DualSense experience, which is good. The screen, which is 8 inches, is bright and colorful, also good. And the battery life is actually quite nice, I think. I can't say that I've used it a ton, but I haven't really had to recharge it frequently. Those are all pluses. The problem is that the Wi-Fi is bad. It's Wi-Fi 5. Yep. That may be a limitation of the PS5 itself. I haven't double-checked the specs on the PS5, but it's definitely Wi-Fi 5 for the Portal. It's very slow to start up. I don't know if you've noticed this, but like you turn on that power button and you just wait for what seems like forever for it to connect to the PS5. And I don't understand why it should be so slow, because other Wi-Fi devices don't take that long. And what is it? What kind of handshake is it doing there? And we'll talk about some of our alternatives, which are much faster than the Portal itself. And it really requires an incredibly stable Wi-Fi signal. I have just kind of for context, I have 2 gigabit Ethernet or fiber into my house. And so I've got very good signal in most of the house. And I've got Wi-Fi 6E routers from Linksys around the house, the Atlas routers. And unless I was sitting very close to one of these, and this is something the Digital Foundry in their video, which I'll link in the show notes, pointed out, unless you're sitting right near the router and you have your PS5 connected to Ethernet, you're going to have troubles. You're going to have stuttering. You're going to have lag and, blocking and macro blocking and all that kind of stuff. It's just not a really great experience. And the fact that you have to kind of sit nearby your PS5 and your router just kind of defeats the entire purpose of the thing, because the point is to be able to play away from your PS5, not next to your PS5. I mean, it's not a complete disaster because, for instance, I might be sitting on the couch and Jennifer might be watching TV and I just want to dip into a game on my own while I'm sitting there with her and the PS5 is nearby, but it really does limit where it's usable.
Yeah, that's my same take and the reason why I ended up selling it. I had, even though it's a weird concept, like it's not a console, it's a remote play client. I had high hopes for the hardware because I really like the PlayStation, the DualSense design and feel, and the buttons are quiet. I think the
haptics are great.
The haptics are great,
just like on a DualSense. Yep.
It's got a really nice, bright quality display. Even though it's not OLED, like it's a really nice display. And I like the hardware, but the problem is the Wi-Fi. Even before I redid my Wi-Fi, and even after, the quality the streaming quality that I get from the PlayStation Portal is just not the same as the one that I'm getting, and I'll get to this in a minute, with the Steam Deck and Wi-Fi 6.
Right.
I really think Sony has done, like, they've made a mistake here in not shipping a remote play client with Wi-Fi 6. And mind you, remote play is not the best game streaming technology out there to begin with. But if you add on top of that the fact that the Portal doesn't have Wi-Fi 6, this just feels like a really silly decision.
Yeah, and it doesn't support cloud gaming either. You can't even, I guess Microsoft kind of splits those things apart with the Xbox too, but it's really a pretty limited device. And I was okay with it being limited if it worked well and I could use it pretty much wherever I wanted to in my house. But the problem is that I really haven't spoken to anyone who hasn't had some sort of problem with it somewhere where they would typically use it, even if that's just at home. And I can't even imagine. I haven't tried it away from my house. I don't know if you have.
No, I haven't. But just, the fact that it doesn't have Wi-Fi 6, and I was getting those glitches, and those, like, the occasional stutter in the animations. I thought, I just want to try something else. And the reason why I ended up selling it is because I did try something else, and I kind of saw the light. So, Chiaki, that's Chiaaki, Chiaki, is a popular third-party remote play client. That there's a bit of a process involved. You can find guides on Reddit, and maybe we can link with the guide that we use in the show notes. You got to authenticate with your PlayStation Network ID, and everything is like, it's nothing like it's not a hack or a workaround. This is an API that has been around for a long time, and third-party remote play clients, there's a bunch of them. There's another one called the PS Play that is on Android and is supposedly coming soon to Linux and Windows. But Chiaki is the most popular one on the Steam Deck. And I used Chiaki last year, and I had a pretty good experience. Then I discovered last week that because Chiaki, I believe, is an open source project. There's a popular fork of Chiaki called the Chiaki for Deck. And that's exactly what the name says. It's a Steam Deck optimized version of Chiaki that you can get from you don't need to do any of those, like, clone a GitHub repo. No, you just boot into desktop mode on your Steam Deck. You open the Discover Center, which is like the App Store for Linux on desktop. You just search for Chiaki for Deck and you just install it and you're done. Then you configure your PS5 or your PS4 and you can use it. And
And it's really only like 3 or 4 settings that you have to set. It's not really hard at all once you're comfortable going into the Linux desktop, which actually I think Valve has done a great job. They make it easy to get into and easy to get out of too.
Yeah, they've done a lot of work, especially over the past year, to sort of improve the experience for switching back and forth between gaming mode and desktop mode. So now we get to the good stuff. So I was testing Chiaki for DeX on Wi-Fi with the Eero right next to me, and I was getting a really good experience, like 720p. You can set the bitrate setting in Chiaki, and you gotta play a little with the numbers. Like, can you by default it uses like a 10 megabits per second bitrate, which is acceptable. But if you want to get really good quality, you gotta go 30 and above if you can. And I noticed that on my Wi-Fi, so I'm using the Steam Deck in Wi-Fi, I could get a reliable stream at 720p. Don't do 1080p on the Steam Deck. It's unnecessary, and you're just gonna waste a lot of bandwidth to go from 720p to 1080p. Just stick with 720p on the Steam Deck. But I was getting a really good experience. 720p, 25 megabit bitrate on an OLED display, right? So I was streaming. I started playing Final Fantasy 16, and I was streaming with no latency, with no lag, and no image artifacts. And it took me a little to figure this out, but I was streaming, to my Steam Deck OLED, and it worked. But the real moment of truth for me, John, was when I tried Ethernet with my Steam Deck.
Yeah.
So we talked, and I showed off on the MacStories setups page my current setup for a USB-C hub that's rear mounted on my Steam Deck. Right now I'm using Velcro to sort of attach this very slim USB hub to the back of the Steam Deck, but I have a better solution coming soon that hopefully will be more elegant than Velcro. And so I had this idea of like, okay, so the USB hub is charging the Steam Deck, and I have 3 more USB ports that I can use. And I have an Eero right next to me. What would happen if I took an Ethernet cable, an Ethernet to USB-C adapter, and I plugged the adapter into the USB hub connected to my Steam Deck? And what happened, John, is that I can now play Chiaki for DeX with its instant wake for my PS5. It's so much faster than Wi-Fi. And I can stream at 720p, 50,000 megabit.
Wow.
I guess 50 megabit bitrate down.
Yeah.
It looks gorgeous. Like it looks like you're playing at full image quality, 60 frames per second, 720p on a Steam Deck OLED from a PlayStation 5 in another room.
So this is going into the Eero that is connected wirelessly to your living room, right?
Yes.
But you're using the Ethernet cable out of that Eero and then directly with an adapter into the Steam Deck via your hub, correct?
Yes.
Okay,
that's correct.
See, I have a solution for this too, and I haven't tried it yet because we were just talking about this, I guess like a day ago, but I have that portable router that I wrote about for Club MacStories, and it does a fantastic job of repeating an existing Wi-Fi network.
Yes.
And I do not have a good place to put our big Wi-Fi routers in my bedroom, but that little one, which I can fold up, I can run off of a battery and put it in a drawer when I'm not using it. Perfect for playing a game in bed. And I'm going to do the same thing with an Ethernet cable, I think.
And you should try it, if only because the Wi-Fi antenna inside the Steam Deck is never going to be as big as your portable router, or in my case, my Eero. So by connecting with an Ethernet cable, you're getting the full signal that the router gets, right? So I've had an incredible experience with Chiaki for DeX, and this is where I think it's going to seal the deal for you, John.
Okay.
And hopefully some of our listeners. I tried PC streaming. Obviously, I don't have a proper gaming PC. I have an ROG Ally that can be plugged into the external 4090 GPU that I have in the living room. Now, there used to be this technology called NVIDIA Game Stream. Do you remember the NVIDIA Shield?
Oh, streaming? Sure. Yeah.
NVIDIA discontinued the Game Stream technology because they want you to use GeForce Experience.
Right.
So Game Stream is no longer available. But there used to be this Game Stream client called Moonlight.
Right, I'm familiar with that one.
Yeah, Moonlight it allowed you to basically use the NVIDIA Shield experience on an iPhone, a Mac, or a Steam Deck. Since GameStream, which was the protocol that Moonlight used, was discontinued, this open source project popped up called Sunshine. So you have Sunshine and Moonlight. And Sunshine is an alternative to GameStream that is more powerful, more modern, and really takes advantage of like modern video encoders on your PC and all of that stuff. So, long story short, I set up Sunshine, which is again a little server that you run on your gaming PC, and it's the protocol. And I set up Moonlight, which is the app on the Steam Deck. I was able to play games from my ROG Ally that's working with the eGPU. So, for example, Cyberpunk at Ray Tracing Ultra, right?
Yep.
I set Moonlight to a bitrate of 150.
Wow.
With Ethernet
oh my gosh.
going into my Steam Deck. So picture this. It's late at night and I'm just lying in bed in my pajamas. And I'm holding the Steam Deck with a rear-mounted USB-C hub and 2 cables going into it. Power cable and the Ethernet cable.
Yeah.
And I'm streaming a ray-traced game at ultra settings.
That's crazy.
At 60 frames per second on an OLED Steam Deck with no latency.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. And it's I bet that's creating a bit of heat too. I bet that's keeping your room nice and warm in the winter.
Well, not so much because like the streaming is just video. The heat is in the living room. That's where the GPU is going.
Yeah, I guess that's true. I thought maybe the hub would get a little hot, but maybe not.
No, it's warm, but I wouldn't say it's hot.
Okay.
And the reason why this is possible is that there's a little utility that you can install with Sunshine on your gaming PC that says whenever a Moonlight client is connected, set the internal PC resolution to the resolution of the Moonlight client.
Oh.
So this means that my PC is connected to my TV, and my TV is 4K. Right. But if I'm streaming to the Steam Deck, I don't need the image to be rendered at 4K. Right. It needs to be rendered at sort of kind of 1080p, right?
Yeah, and that so that saves a ton of bandwidth.
An extraordinary amount of bandwidth. And that's why it's possible to play ray-traced games at ultra settings at 60 frames per second, right, over Wi-Fi. And I bet I could go higher and set the band. I guess I cannot because 150 is literally the maximum limit of bitrate in Moonlight. But it's good enough, and it's incredible. And does it sort of defeat the purpose of, I could play Cyberpunk natively on my Steam Deck,
right?
But I wouldn't get the same image quality. So I guess what I'm saying is, if you have a gaming PC and you have a Steam Deck, and especially an OLED one, and you have the right conditions with Wi-Fi, and if it just so happens that you can also run an Ethernet cable to a Steam Deck,
right.
Do it, and you will not regret it.
Wow, that sounds great. Now, here's a question for you. Do you still have that Intel NUC? Is that at your house or is that at your mom's
It's not
house?
Anymore. It's in Viterbo. Yes, you got me. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I was wondering how a game running on the NUC would play in this scenario.
Well, you would still need, so you could use the NUC as the.
But you wouldn't have the GPU power.
Exactly.
The
main issue there is that any Intel NUC or compact gaming PC, you would have to use an eGPU. But eGPU with Thunderbolt 4 has a pretty big bottleneck in terms of how much data the GPU can feed to the PC over a Thunderbolt 4 cable. Maybe things will improve with Thunderbolt 5. Maybe not. We'll see.
So with that ROG Ally, you really have a very unique setup because with that proprietary connector that they have for the eGPU, you've really got the conditions of, it's not unique in the sense that if you had a full-on giant Windows PC gaming rig or a high-end laptop with a 4080 in it or whatever, it would be the same thing. But
but I don't have the space for it.
Right, you're doing it with a handheld, and this is, I think think that's the only handheld I can imagine that I've heard of that can do this kind of thing and support this kind of streaming as well.
There are some modern handhelds that I have never tried, but like some of the GPD handhelds, I believe some of them are using this new eGPU standard that I never tested called Oculink. That's a different. So there are 3 types of eGPU connections right now. The most popular one is Thunderbolt. Then there's the proprietary Asus one, which is what the XG Mobile is using. And then there's this Oculink connection. But I never tested an Oculink connection. I also believe it's Oculink, like the proprietary Asus one. I think it's based off PCI Express. I think it's like better than Thunderbolt in that regard. But I never tried an Oculink eGPU. But you should search for. There's a bunch of YouTube videos that.
Okay, that's good to know. That's good to know. The other thing I wanted to look into too is how this Lenovo Legion Go is for that kind of thing. I don't know. I don't know a lot about that yet. It's been pretty quiet release, although there are a decent number of YouTube reviews out there now that I have queued up with Marcos Tanaka's app Play to watch.
Yeah, I feel like the handheld market is sort of, things are settling down a bit now, and I think
a little bit.
I think it's very clear that right now you have the Steam Deck as the sort of best PC handheld for most people, and the ROG Ally is sort of like the best Windows option for power users. That's sort of the divide, I think, at this point.
I think so. I think so too. And I think the Steam Deck really is the best all-around solution. I think you can't really go wrong with that. Yeah. And the upgrades in the OLED model are really good. I mean, they could have probably charged more than they did for it, because they've changed virtually everything, at least a little bit. I mean, they're all kind of at the margin type of changes, but they're all meaningful in terms of the quality of using the device. All right, Federico, that's a good place to stop for today. I could talk to you about this all day long, but we'll save it for another episode or something down the road. I want to thank our sponsor for this episode. That's Collide. You can find the two of us over at MacStories.net. Federico and I are on Mastodon. Just go to Viticci.MacStories.net or JohnVorhees.MacStories.net. And you can find us on Instagram, where Federico is at Viticci. That's VITICCI. And I'm at John Voorhees. JohnVorhees. Talk to you next week, Federico.
Ciao, John.